Wipe that chocolate Easter egg off your children's faces. Welcome to Simplified Sparky Marketing. Let's talk about the real cost of a discount for your electrical business and electrical quotes. Where this stemmed from was I was circling back on some old jobs and I remembered actually shafting myself on so many jobs. And I did an Instagram post on this today, and that is where this is all kind of stemming from. For this example on Instagram I gave, someone wants a job done. You've quoted at 10 grand. It's 6 grand in materials, 4 grand is left over as your profit. But the client comes back to you, they haggle you, they say to you, hey, look, can you do it for 8 grand? Do it for 8 grand. And you're like, fuck, you know what? 8 grand is still a lot of money. Let's do it for 8 grand. So you end up doing that electrical job for 8 grand. And instead of making 4 grand on that job profit, you've now only made 2 grand. So you didn't just reduce 20% off the quotation from 8 grand to 10 grand, from 10 grand to 8 grand, sorry. You have split your profit by 50%. You have stuck your hand in the pocket and just handed them over 2 grand. Because that 2 grand doesn't come off your overheads, your billable hours, your cost of operations, labor, all of that. It comes purely off of your profit. And that's devastating. I fell into this trap so many times in the early days while I was doing construction work with builders. And it was just, they'd squeeze you. And because the figures were maybe 20 grand or 15 grand, you'd look at it and you'd be like, oh, look, what's 2 grand off of 20 grand? Not realizing where that came straight out of my profit. Like, it wasn't like I was getting the materials cheaper, the labor was getting cheaper. That fucking amount came straight off my bottom line, and I did not realize it at the time. It was just naive. I'm really hoping, especially if you're a young gun starting up, that you take that on board and you know your cost and what it costs you to actually operate and the profits you want to make every day. And when somebody goes to you, can you do it for cheaper? Can you discount? You can stand your ground firmly and be like, I can't do it any cheaper, because if I do, I may as well be working for wages. So this happened to me the other day as well. I got catfished. A job came in, as per usual. They called up, spoke to the virtual assistant, receptionist. She booked the job in, and I looked at the job when I went into the system on ServiceMate, and I said, fuck, that's actually pretty close, and it's a juicy job worth looking at. And what it was, an apartment spruce up, so lights, PowerPoints, switches, all of that stuff, I'm imagining. So I get there, and I was greeted by the lady's husband, who was covered in paint, and he wasn't a painter. You could just tell he had his Bunnings equipment all over the place. So I said, okay, maybe they're trying to save some money on this one by painting the place themselves. So he proceeded then to tell me, I asked him a few questions about the apartment just to break the ice, and then he told me that it's actually his son's apartment. So that was fine, we're going through the job, but then he tells me it's his son's investment apartment. So I was like, okay, they're really going to want to squeeze stuff here. Run through the job. He said he wants to replace 3 PowerPoints over there, 4 switches in the house or the apartment, 1 light fitting and a smoke alarm. And it would have looked rough. It would have looked so rough because you'd have yellow PowerPoints and white PowerPoints, just a mixed bag of crap. But the vibe I was getting was they just wanted it done cheap and nasty and just get it on, get it working, get it done kind of thing. And we went to the switchboard, and the switchboard was severely substandard, outdated, and I educated him on that. And I said, look, what I'll do is I'll send you through a few options and go from there. Quoted as I normally quote, per point pricing, gave an option for the switchboard as well. And they then came back to me and they said, somebody's come in at X amount, and it was $400 cheaper than me. And I was like, fucking hell. So I looked at the quote, looked over it, and I was like, look, I can drop a little bit, but I'm not. I was like, I'm standing my ground, I'm busy, I don't need that work. I've got loads of profitable work in the pipeline that I don't have to waste my time doing this for less money than I quoted it. So I called her bluff. I said, can you send me the quote that you mentioned is, that amount cheaper? I said, I don't care who it is. If you can blank out who it is, just show me the items and show me the price. And she goes, no, you don't have to see that. He's definitely using Clipsal and all this. So that was fine. I was like, fuck it. If they do the switchboard, it's actually not too bad. I was like, I probably could reduce it a little bit and still make really good money on this. And then I just looked at it and I sent her back a message, and she's very hesitant. And I was like, is this including the switchboard option? And she's like, no, we're not doing the switchboard. And that was enough for me. I was like, look, they really don't give a fuck about this. They just want the slapdash, get it in, get it done job. And I just said, look, really sorry about this, but we're not going to be a good fit for you. I'm going to decline this job or this opportunity at the moment. I said, just best of luck with it or whatnot. But got me thinking as well. Yes, the electrician dropped his pants, maybe desperate, maybe just a shit businessman. I don't know. That's their business. It doesn't really matter. But it's not always just the electrician. That particular client is just a D-grade, horrible client. Not the person herself. She seemed like a lovely lady, but just her mentality around getting stuff done correctly and just trying to cut costs. That's what she was about. She wasn't looking for the latest PowerPoints and light switches and how she can improve that home. She was looking to slapdash it, get it rented out, just similar to a real estate. If you're doing real estate work, just bang a PowerPoint on there. It doesn't matter what brand it is. Just get it working so that the tenant stuff works again. It was that kind of mentality. It's not always the electrician's fault. There are just some really bad clients out there and they will just squeeze and squeeze. If somebody came in at a quarter of my price and beat that guy's price, they would have went with it. So it's not always your fault. There's just really bad clients out there. This one happened to slip through the net. But it's funny because usually I'll qualify them before I go out to look at the job. If I even look at the job, I usually don't. And I just got catfished because they were so close. And sure enough, it was just a very bad lead. But the key things to take away here are know your price of what you want to make per day. I quote differently. I've got a set profit I want to make every day after materials that covers the profit and overheads. And that's what I want to make every day. And I know that figure. And I can just glance at a quote, look at it and go, all right, there's going to be 6 hours on this job. We're going to allow for a day. I want to make X amount. I'm going to win here. Like, it's a very easy way to do it. And it's something I've been showing my members and they absolutely love it as well, because you can get really nitty gritty with billable hours and all of that, but it just gets very confusing after a while and marking materials up 30% and all of this. Whereas I just look at it this way and it's won so much for me in the last few years that I'm sticking with it and I'm actually telling people to implement it. So it's fantastic. Know your numbers, know what it costs per day to run your business, know your break-even point, know what you want to make before you drop your pants. If you need help with any of this, there is links in the show notes underneath, and there is a 9-day series specifically for electricians to boot up your marketing engine. See you next time.